Fox News. We're gonna watch Sean Hannity. This is just a straight up interview with our big beautiful president. I think they're gonna be talking a lot about. So it says President Donald Trump joins Hannity to unpack his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. So yeah, they're gonna be talking a lot about China. Hopefully, we can get some info related to that meeting. As far as I know, honestly, I haven't heard of any actual trade agreements being signed from that meeting. I haven't heard of like any actual policy things happening at all. It seems like it was just posturing, generally speaking. I could be wrong on that. Maybe something has come out and I just haven't seen it. But maybe we'll figure it out in this video. So let's go ahead and watch Sean Hannity interview our big beautiful president, and we will try to figure out what is going on with China.
All right, we continue more with President Trump. We held this interview right after his all-important meeting with President Xi as we continue from Beijing, China. If you were to take
they're in Beijing
out of this summit.
By the way, there's been a lot of Fox News coverage from China during this thing, which I'm all for, man. I think that especially like boomers and stuff, like the people who watch Fox News have a very antiquated view of China. Like, I think they honestly think that it looks like it did like, 60 years ago, like a bunch of like peasants and stuff like out in the fields. But like, so I think that even though I'm sure Fox News is going to try to put a bunch of spin on everything that they show people, I think that inevitably it's going to make a lot of people question their understanding of China and be like, whoa, look at how how advanced all of their cities are. And look at that high-speed rail, man. I wish we had that. Like, I'm hoping at least that that's what some of them will think.
America, I'm sure, watched, and I'll do a side-by-side, watched the reception. And I'll do a side-by-side of the reception of then President Obama.
He doesn't respect Obama.
Oh my God.
Nobody does.
Dude, if you just get down on your knees and start sucking him off, if you're going to do this shit, like seriously, who cares? Are you going to talk about the amount of people that were out there waving flags for Trump rather than Obama? What the fuck is this? Like, this is just unhinged, like glazing of the president, like for no fucking reason.
He overrated, and he's a divider. Biden will go down as the worst president in history because I think what he did on the border.
And how do you explain your?
I think he'll go down second worst after you, buddy.
relationship with President Xi.
Also, like, by the way, Biden sucks because he helped facilitate the genocide of the Palestinians. However, he had some good aspects in terms of his domestic policies, particularly around labor, that I'm okay with. So I probably honestly wouldn't put him at the like worst of the worst of American presidents, because it's like a who's who of like who committed the most war crimes. If you go through all of our presidents, like we've committed ungodly amounts of war crimes. And so Biden, while his facilitating of that genocide was horrific and should be in The Hague forever, like in the grand scheme of presidents, he's probably not. And like he maybe top 5 worst, but I don't think that I would put him even like I think, but I do think that Donald Trump is going to go down as one of the worst presidents of all time.
Border, worst president in history because I think what he did on the border.
And how do you explain your relationship with President Xi? Because it seems as cordial as it can be. He doesn't seem like the warmest guy in the world on the outside.
He is. He's warm. I mean, look, he's smart. He's a very smart person. But we have a good relationship. No, he has to respect somebody. He's no games. He's not like, let's talk about how did the Yankees do last night? Okay, who cares? They don't care. He's
Xi Jinping, he gives the exact same amount of respect to like every president. He does not care about the individual. He only cares about America's power, right? Like America is a powerful country, and so he gives them the respect that he feels another power deserves or whatever. If you look at Chinese social media though, nobody respects Donald Trump, man. I was watching some videos about like the people from China and like the shit, like the AI slop that they're posting about Trump, and it's like him like bouncing on like hamburgers and shit, and like I think they're calling him the nation builder, like in terms of like he's building the Chinese nation into its like he's doing nation building for China. Like they're making fun of him like no other, man. So I think they're even making fun of him more than like Joe Biden, like, and Joe Biden was basically dead. So like, I don't think any of them, I don't think the people of China have that much respect for you. But of course, Xi Jinping is going to like show like respect in a diplomatic, like a diplomatic meeting with the president of the world superpower. Of course, he's going to do that.
All about China. It's,
but their economy's
it's a consummate
hurting.
thing.
Their economy's hurting.
I don't know. I've been hearing that about them for 40 years, that their economy is hurting. I've been hearing.
He's been watching Technically Clay. This is one of those moments where Trump does the thing that most neoliberals are unable to do, and that he peppers in little bits of truth. Like this is one of those things. Like yes, the American propaganda has been saying China is on the verge of collapse and is going to collapse any day now for 40 years, and it has never happened. And so he's just kind of like pointing that out, like, and that's one of those rare moments where it's like the rare moments that he's telling the truth that kind of tricks people into being like, oh, I guess he is like different than other politicians or whatever, even if he governs the exact same.
I'm always hearing about it. Look, we want to open it up. It's massive. And we want to get all of those companies and many more in there and make a lot of money and a lot of jobs for America. That's all. It's very simple. And I've done it better than anybody else. Our deficit's way down from what it used to be, way down with China. And this could end any deficit with China. China's been very good. China treated our presidents with great disrespect.
Well, okay. Our deficit down with China? American deficit by country by year. When was this? This is through 2021. I don't know if this helps anybody, but this is like through 2021. I think this is the amount of amount of debt owned by various countries, right? So you can see China right here has been, relatively growing the deficit. I do think that they have reduced their buying of American bonds like strategically, but I don't think that that's like a win from America's perspective. I think that that is a symptom of China realizing that America's era of like finance capital dominance is coming to an end, and they're trying to, diversify their assets to some extent. So he might be somewhat right in that like the deficit with China, it has been going down. But it's not for the reasons you'd expect. Our deficit is still going up every year, like insanely high. Like the amount that we're borrowing from people in order to fund all of our wars abroad and stuff is still incredibly high. It's just people are starting to like, China in particular is starting to diversify away from America, at least a little bit.
Respect. Like we have a lot of presidents, and I was a Reagan fan and am. I liked him. I thought he was great. Great style and everything, but he was not good on trade. We lost the car industry to Japan and Germany and others. People have liabilities and whatever, but we had some presidents that were really, really bad. They allowed our country to be just absolutely decimated. And when you look at what happened.
Well, they didn't allow it. They were told to do it by America's pedo-billionaires, which he is one of, by the way. Like, he is one of the pedo-billionaires who, I mean, he probably didn't have that much influence, to be honest. Donald Trump, pre-president Donald Trump did not have that much influence with the political, like the people in political power. But the other Epstein associates or whatever, all the other billionaires, they did have a lot of influence with the president, and they were telling the president, hey, this is how we want to increase our profits. We want to move all of our labor and manufacturing to a country like China, where it is much cheaper, the labor is much cheaper, and we're able to build these things at a much larger margin so that we can make more profits. And those presidents just like were like, sure, why not? And it might not have even been like explicitly being told to do these things or whatever. I think it's just a lot of these things are just general positions and policies, all driven by the nebulous like concept of a like growth and accumulation and like just capitalism. So a lot of those sorts of things, like unless you have an ideological person in charge, like a Bernie Sanders type or something, who is there to try to like to be antagonistic against the pedo billionaires, then that sort of stuff was always going to happen. And I mean, let's be real. If Donald Trump was president back then, he would have done the exact same thing. Like he doesn't have the will or fortitude, and he doesn't care about anything other than enriching himself. So like he doesn't have the will and fortitude to like go up against our pedo billionaires for sure. He would have done the exact same thing.
With Biden, when you look at what happened, the way everybody treated him, there was zero respect. Obama too. The Iran nuclear deal was the worst deal, one of the worst deals ever made. If I didn't go in and terminate that deal, Iran would have a nuclear weapon, and they would have used it. We wouldn't even maybe sitting here right now.
Can I ask you this, though?
But John, they would have used it. The Iran nuclear
I agree
deal.
with you.
Then if I didn't go in with the B-2 bombers 9 months ago, they would have had a nuclear weapon. And by the way, the one thing they told me, because I deal with the Iranian leaders now a little bit, they said very strongly, they said, because they said, we're getting the nuclear dust. That was a term I made up because it's sort of, it's
a funny
simpler term for people to understand. It's nuclear dust, sort of dusty. But I said, we get the nuclear dust. They said, you will get it. They agreed to it, right? They agreed to it. But then they take it back, then they agree, it's back and forth. I don't know. I think they have a lot of problems with the leadership. But Sean, I said, we get the nuclear dust. They said, there's only 2 countries that can get it. Who? You and China. Nobody else has the technology. I said, why do you say? He said, because when you hit that thing, the whole mountain collapsed on it. I said, so you're saying we really hit it good, didn't we? He said, there's no way that any normal country can. The only 2 countries that can go down and get that are you and.
What is he talking about, man? Grandpa, please get back on track. Okay, so he's saying the mountain collapsed in on the nuclear dust. Okay, well then the problem's solved then, right? Like what? Then okay, who cares? Like we don't. Then why are we at war with them? If it's impossible to access the dust, which is apparently the most important thing in the world to him. I truly do not know what he's even trying to say right now.
In China. It's very interesting.
Oh, hey,
because CNN was saying, well, maybe it wasn't hit that badly. It was hit. And what they did is they took a lot of credit away from those great B-2 pilots and the Tomahawk submarines. And, we had the submarines.
My cat is deciding to rub up all over my mic. I'm going to try and get him into the lap. Come on, Buster. Come on, Buster. Nope, down here. Okay. Well, I'll keep playing it while I try to get him here.
Shooting Tomahawks in there, 30 Tomahawks. We obliterated it. And before the pilots even go back, I remember CNN saying, well, maybe it wasn't hit that badly. Maybe it wasn't. They didn't even know anything, and they were saying that. The top person said to me, there's 2 countries that can get that. We can't get it even if we wanted to because we don't have the technology or the equipment. They said us and China. It's very interesting.
60% enriched uranium to be weapons grade, 90% enriched, and under 12.
Dude, I want to. Okay, Peep, you got to stop doing that on the mic. I want to know more about China. I've heard the Iran stuff, and right now Grandpa's just like babbling around Iran, and it's up to Hannity here, the other Grandpa in the room, to try and get him back on track. But now he's just asking more about Iran stuff. So
12 days.
Yeah.
And they were bragging to your Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff.
If I didn't go in with the B-2 bombers that week, that day, that week,
now he's clicking
they
stuff.
would right now have a nuclear bomb.
So it was that imminent.
No,
Well, I
it
thought so.
wasn't.
The intelligence
No, it wasn't. This is stupid. No, it was not that imminent. Uh, I've talked about it a million times. The nuclear issue with Iran is a completely manufactured problem. It is not real. It is either they are days away from a nuke, because they've been saying that Iran is days away from a nuke for like 20, 30 years at this point. And so Iran is simultaneously days away from a nuke and also completely and totally obliterated at the same time. It's doublethink. It's classic doublethink. You have to like and it's completely manufactured, and they're going to use it for whatever the political situation necessitates at the time. And the reason that they went to war was because of Israel, so they used it as an excuse so that they could go to war for the nation state of Israel. So that's what happened there.
Told you
I
so.
thought that they were very close to having a nuclear weapon, and it all emanated from those 3 sites that we hit, and we hit them good. We hit them good. And when he told me that, and he wasn't saying that as a negotiation, he just said, we can't get it, we'll never be able to get it. They're not, you got to move like the weight of a mountain. And it was a granite mountain. Those bombs went right down air chutes. I guarantee they'll never build an air chute again.
This is the bunker.
Think of it, at 1 o'clock in the morning with no moon, we drop bombs every...
Okay, for those also the Iran's nuclear stockpile is largely fine. There's been a lot of reporting on that. Most of it is in apparently people think most of it's in Isfahan or whatever, that city or wherever that is, but it's still there. Like this is just fantasy make-believe world.
Every one of those bombs went down an air chute and exploded, and the whole mountain collapsed on top of that site. And the Iranian leaders told me that
I'm going to move on to the next question up here.
You feel there's been people that have, and generals that I've spoken to, that think you have to get the dust, which is the enriched uranium, or have you been told there may be a way to entomb it, that they could never get to it?
So we were thinking about doing it early on, and it would take a while. It would take a week and a half. That's a long time to be in enemy territory. No, you got to move these massive amounts of granite. It's a granite. Granite's the hardest stone. It's amazing that it's.
I'm moving on again. I want to hear about China, dude.
And even despite the statement that they can't get it, they are. And we know everything that's happening. If they ever moved on, and I told them that, if they send a force over there to try where I see somebody's trying, I just feel better if I got it, actually. But I think it's more for public relations than it is for anything else. The other thing we could do is bomb it again, just make it absolute. But I would feel better getting it. So, and we will get it.
Let me go back to a question that has come up before for you, and I want to get into more detail because we are in Beijing. The issue of Chinese students in our universities. More importantly, in my mind, is that Chinese nationals have been buying up thousands and thousands of acres of farmland, ranch land, and land near military installations. Now, I would assume I'm in Beijing if I want.
That's capitalism, baby. How dare you, Sean Hannity? How dare you question the great, beautiful ideology of capitalism? How dare you? This guy is an unpatriotic, socialist piece of shit because he hates how he hates that the capitalist system that we created, where anybody and everybody, no matter what country they're from, is allowed to buy and profit off of whatever land they want. And he wants to put up a bunch of commie regulations to stop all of these pro-capitalist, patriotic Chinese people from buying up all the land. How dare he?
Wanted to buy property near one of their military installations. I don't think President Xi...
No, they wouldn't let you. I don't... Look, it's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop? You want to see farmers lose a lot of money? Just take that out of the market. But they've...
By the way, obviously, I'm joking. So I don't particularly like foreign countries coming in and buying up American land and essentially renting it out to American citizens. I don't like that. But guess what? Guess what? I also don't like when America's homegrown pedobillionaires do the exact same thing. Like, I don't think this has to be a country specific issue. I think that we should create some regulation that doesn't allow for giant corporations, regardless of where they're based, to buy up, monopolize all of this farmland and then sell it or rent it to like the peasants that then work it. Like I think that we should try to create regulations to stop that from happening, regardless of the nation that is partaking in it. That's my personal opinion. But I just like to make fun of these people by whenever they have even a modest critique of the ideology of capitalism, which is that like no regulations whatsoever, everybody can do whatever they want, free for all style. I just like to make fun of them because they're I don't know, I just think it's funny.
Had a lot of land for a long time. Obama did nothing about it. They bought a lot of it during the Obama administration. He did nothing about it. As far as the students, it's 500,000 students they come, good students. I could tell them, I don't want any students, is a very insulting thing to say to a country. They would then immediately go out and start building universities all over China. But if you don't have those students, good students, by the way.
China does have a lot of really good universities, by the way. However, China is still, I think even to this day, I think it might be starting to change as, even even Chinese, like the Chinese elites or the Chinese, like the wealthy Chinese people are starting to change their attitudes. But there is this like baked in, I think there's a very baked in attitude in a lot of countries, not just China, but a lot of Asian countries in particular, that that the West's education system or like the West's like colleges are like the cream of the crop. Like that's where we want to send them. Like if you are of that elite class, it's like also a status symbol if your kids are going to America to do their studies as opposed to going somewhere in China. Like I think there's still a little bit of a like that belief system is still there. But I do think it's starting to change because I think that China is starting to have a lot of pride in Chinese industry. And I think that includes their education system. So I do think that that's starting to change. Maybe one day it'll be our elites, our pedo billionaires sending little white kids over to China to get a good education and as a status symbol. Maybe someday it'll be flip-flop. That would be funny. I hope I live to see that day.
And we do another thing, if they're good and they want to stay in America, we won't give them a green card and things like that. And that not only them, but other countries. But if you want to see a university system die, take 500,000 people out of it. And the ones that won't be,
not just 500,000 people, but 500,000 of the of people who pay absurd amounts of money for their education. Like these are the people like when Chinese people send their kids to college, they're the people who like they send them to the tippy top colleges that they can. And they're spending, $50,000 a semester or whatever. And they're also like sending them tons of money to buy stuff or what, like it's usually very wealthy people who are doing this. So it would have a huge impact on the college system because our college system is so financialized. Like they're essentially our colleges are just banks basically, where people just like park their money and then people like live there and oh yeah, I guess you can do some studies too or whatever. Like our college system is so hyper financialized that they wouldn't be able to survive without a bunch of like billionaire Chinese people sending their kids over here to go to college. But like there is like a solution that like that's not a good thing though, right? Like that doesn't mean that we shouldn't you know in some way try to change that, but the solution should be that we should definancialize education, and in my opinion just make public colleges all free, and fund them through taxes, and then if you know, if foreign citizens want to go to those public colleges, maybe they could pay like a semester fee or something to go there. I don't really know how that would work, but in terms of like we're going there through our taxes, if it's like good enough, then maybe it could just function like even immigrants and stuff could go, or like people from China could go to those public schools as well. I don't know. I haven't thought that much about it, but I do think we need to definancialize the college, like the college industrial complex.
We heard of the top schools. The top schools will do fine, but your lower schools, the ones that don't do quite as well, they'll be dying all over the place. I frankly think that it's good that people come from other countries and they learn our culture, and many of them want to stay here. I think it's good. Not everybody agrees with me, and it doesn't sound like a
Hey, I think it's good too. I think it's good. I like when people you know, come and share culture, like, and I think America at its best is a hugely multicultural, like a nation of immigrants or whatever that has a lot of variety in the various cultures that you can, you know, interact with and like learn from and build a better future together. Like I do really like that, and I would like to maintain that in some sense, but I also do like that's why I say like I want this to be solved not as like we have to, not from a nativist perspective of we have to stop all of these foreigners from coming in here and, you know, paying ungodly amounts of money to our colleges and like raising the prices for everyone else or whatever, but instead we should just, you know, publicly fund these things. And then if people can come over like and, you know, partake in our institutions of higher learning through like scholarships or whatever, like I think that would be great. That'd be great.
Conservative position, and I'm a conservative guy. I'm really a common sense guy, I think, more than a conservative guy.
I
think MAGA is common sense.
Sorry.
You know?
I'm common sense though. No, the MAGA is not common sense. MAGA is like a death cult that wants to destroy our country. Like no, MAGA is not common sense. I am common sense. I believe in common sense everyday positions. You know, I believe in Medicare for all. I believe everybody should be allowed to like afford health care. You know, like I believe that we shouldn't have people dying on the streets homeless when we have, you know, ungodly amounts of like unused units and houses in this country, right? Like those are my common sense positions. I also believe that we need to, you know, dismantle capitalism and seize the means of production, and overthrow the pedo billionaires that control our lives. You know, just everyday common sense positions. That's what I say.
People understand we want strong borders, we want strong military, we want good education, we want low interest rates, we want. But
I think people would argue they worry about, do they have nefarious intentions?
Sure, I know, and we worry about that. And honestly, you know, they do things to us and we do things to them. It's a very, very fine line, the whole thing with students. So they have 500,000 students, and our university system does great. You know, it does great. Mm-hmm. You want to screw it up, take 500,000 students out. Mm. And you're gonna see bankruptcies at the lower end of good colleges, but they're not known or whatever. You're gonna have a lot of problems. So it's something I'm always looking at. But it's a very insulting thing to tell a country, we don't want your people in our schools. I mean, it really is. Now,
that's the entire premise of your presidency. I mean, not schools, but like, we don't want your people in our country. It was literally the entire premise of your presidency. I'm curious what the average Fox News viewer, when he hears this, I mean, Trump has said this sort of stuff before when it comes to Chinese immigrants, or like, the various, like, uh I don't know. I think that they probably don't like this, but they also, have to balance that in their head with he's dear leader and everything he says is true. So I don't know what's going on with the average MAGA dude when they hear him say stuff like this.
People say, oh, that's a terrible thing. It is a very insulting thing. And it's very interesting. It's something didn't come up today, came up last time. But I will tell you that school systems don't want that to happen because you won't have much of a school system.
All right, Mr. President, when they look through the history books, this summit, what will people be saying 10 years from now?
Well, I think it's a very
probably what they're
historic
saying
summit.
right now.
It's the two great.
Okay, number one, this summit isn't going to be remembered in the history books. I'm sorry, it's not. Like, they have a summit like this every year. Like, it's not going to be remembered. But if it was, it would probably be about how America has never been in such a weak position before when having a negotiation with China. Like, that's probably what the history book, like, this will be, if it's remembered at all, it will be a marked change in the global power structure and dynamics, where China is no longer just a middle power in relation to America as a global power, but China, or I wouldn't say a middle power, but like the relation in terms of like America is like here and China is down here, right? Now it's going to be China and America are about like on equal footing when it comes to their ability to like impact the world and global, like, and like who has more global power, right? And then also that China is potentially starting to excel even further past America in terms of its like capabilities for like projecting its power across the world. I think that if they're going to remember this at all, which I don't think they will, that would be, I think they'll, because usually history doesn't remember individual events like this. History remembers arcs and like like they'll remember this in correlation with like Iran. Like Iran will be a major event, I think, in world history in the future that people are going to remember. But this will be like a footnote on the Iran portion of history, if I had to guess.
Countries, I call it the G2. This is the G2. They have G7, they had the G8. This is the G2. And I think it'll go down as a very important moment in history. And maybe more than anything else, a great moment of respect.
Mr. President,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
What did I do? Oh no, I got taken to some website by Fox News. Okay, that's never good. You never know where it's going to take you. You're going to end up either at a boner pill website or something else. I don't know, something else not good, or like do you have low testosterone? Like one of those websites. But anyway, so that's that, people. The middle was a little like I didn't need to hear about the Iran stuff. I've heard him talk about the dust a million times. So that part was whatever. But I think we got some good information, or like not good information, but we got to see what our president thinks about his trip so far over in Beijing. And we got to see, I think, some of the changes in like coverage, both from Sean Hannity's perspective, but also changes in rhetoric from Donald Trump in terms of how he talks about China. I think to some extent, a lot of these pundits and people in power are starting to recognize that they can't just, continuously saber rattle this in the same way against China as they have historically, because they it's just like everybody, the writing's on the walls. Like everybody realizes that that China is entering its century of prosperity right now, and they're the next hegemon, and we might not want to make them too mad. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to this real quick. This is from 14 hours ago. I assume that they're also doing this from China, if I had to guess. But we're gonna listen to Lil Marco talk about what he thinks about the Taiwan policies, or like America's position on Taiwan. So he looks dead inside right now on this one. It must have been a long flight. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what Lil Marco has to say.
She stressed to President Trump that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. Talk to me about that moment when that was discussed.
Well, they certainly feel that way, and they always raise that issue, and we understand they raise that issue. From our perspective, any forced change in the status quo and the situation that's there now would be bad for both countries. One of the things the Chinese emphasize, which we agree, is strategic stability in our relationship, a constructive relationship, but also one that establishes strategic stability so that we don't have misunderstandings that could lead to broader conflict. And so we always reiterate.
This already is a backing off of the usual saber rattling that most administrations do towards China. You're already kind of witnessing it with a lot of the Trump administration, but I think that, yeah, I keep saying it, but I just think that people are starting to realize that it's over for America, that America isn't capable of projecting force in the same way that it used to, especially since Iran. And so the saber rattling, especially around Taiwan, the rhetoric is going to have to change a lot, I think, going forward in order to not be as provocative towards China, because a lot of times the rhetoric from the people in charge is very provocative as a way to potentially start building up towards conflict with China. But I think now it's starting to become apparent that we don't want to build up towards conflict with China right now, because I think in the minds of a lot of these State Department people, they're thinking we need some time to rebuild after this Iran misadventure, right? We don't want to go straight into China right after right after we failed so spectacularly. I don't even know if they view it that way, but it's obvious to anybody watching it. It failed so spectacularly in Iran. And so I think that they're probably framing it in their head as we will back off of our rhetorical saber rattling towards China for maybe 5 years or something, 5 years, and then we'll go back and we'll see where we are, and then maybe at that point we'll be ready for war with China. Not realizing that every single day China becomes more strong and America becomes more weak. So in 5 years, when they reevaluate it, they're going to be like, wait a second, we're even worse off than we were back then. Okay, let's give it another 5 years. In another 5 years, we'll for sure be strong enough to take on China. And then they'll wait another 5 years and they'll be like, wait a second, we're even weaker now. That's how it's probably going to go. I'm hoping, my hope is that it just never ends up turning into an actual hot conflict with China, because besides being immoral and wrong, to go to war with China for I don't know what reason we would come up with, but it would also just be acceleration, even further acceleration of our decline, and an even harsher decline for America, which will inevitably have domestic implications as well, with our populace and the economic instability of our populace, and just political instability for sure. So I hope that we don't go down that route, but that's probably, I think, what's going through a lot of these people's head when they're starting to backtrack off of their super hardcore saber rattling that they used to do.
The point, we hear them when they say this. We always respond by saying anything that would compel or force a change in what we have now would be problematic. And we would certainly, our policies on that have not changed. It's been pretty.
Well, that's China's policies. That's what China says. They don't want any sort of, they don't want to do a forceful reunification. They want to do a peaceful reunification. And so, they're saying that their policies haven't changed, but their rhetoric certainly has. Even if their policies haven't officially changed, their rhetoric definitely has changed.
Consistent across multiple presidential administrations and remains consistent now.
Did President Xi request to President Trump not to sell weapons to Taiwan?
Well, that topic has been discussed in the past. It did not feature prominently in today's discussion. We know what their position on that is already. Remember, Congress plays a role in that process as well. And we have sold them weapons in the past. That's existed as recently as December, which they were very upset about. And that's a decision the president gets to make as Congress appropriates, and as Congress decides what to do with those topics, we will respond accordingly.
But nothing has changed.
I think Congress is trying to sell another arms package to Taiwan. I'll be curious if Trump actually if he doesn't like sign it into law or doesn't like pass the bill, if they do that, just based on these discussions, I do think it's clear that China, that's probably like the main goal that China is trying to get from America's current like weak position that they have. So we'll see if anything like that comes about in the future, I guess.
In the way the U.S. views the relationship with Taiwan, it will defend Taiwan, as has been.
Yeah, U.S. policy on the issue of Taiwan is unchanged as of today and as of the meeting that we had here today. It was raised. They always raise it on their side. We always make clear our position, and we move on to the other topics. We know where they stand, and I think they know where we stand.
Do you think China wants to invade Taiwan?
Well, I think China's preference is probably to have Taiwan willingly, voluntarily join them. In a perfect world, what they would want is...
Yeah, they've been saying that for decades. Like, yeah, that's what they want. They want a peaceful reunification with Taiwan. Yeah, congrats. You finally heard the words that they were saying.
Some vote or a referendum in Taiwan that agrees to fold in. I think that's what they would prefer. Ultimately, it's featured prominently in President Xi's mandate in the time he's been in office. He's made clear that what they call reunification, that's what they call it, is something that has to happen at some point. We think it would be a terrible mistake to force that through force or anything of that nature. There would be repercussions for that globally, not just from the United States. And we kind of leave it there. That sort of ambiguity is what I think.
It would be terrible, but it wouldn't be terrible in the way that I think, like, America doesn't have any cards here. America would not be capable of defending Taiwan from China. So it would be terrible in that, like, America, I'm sure, would send a bunch of weapons to China. I'm sure America would try to prolong the conflict in order to destabilize China. Like, I'm sure that, generations of men in Taiwan would, be thrown into the meat grinder, never to return again, similar to Ukraine. Like, it would be terrible. And the end result would be the same, is that Taiwan would become a part of China. So the difference, I think, in outcome would probably be that under that circumstance, then Taiwan would probably be incorporated more into the Chinese model of governance, as opposed to if they peacefully reunified. I think that they have a chance of keeping their, capitalist system, like, separate from China's, Communist Party or whatever, similar to Hong Kong. I think that if they did the peaceful way, I think they could, keep their lives relatively unchanged. But a consequence of being peacefully reunified, though, would be that America, like America's influence and America's bases and stuff would have to be, bye-bye, get out of here. Like, so, there's that aspect as well, I guess.
Has defined the way we characterize this issue, and the reason being strategic ambiguities. We don't want to see conflict. We don't want to see something disruptive happen.
I gotta use the bathroom.
Because I think it would be very disruptive for the world and for both countries.
I know you're watching China. You don't think they're ramping up their military to do something in Taiwan?
Well, I think they're ramping up their military in general. The pace of growth in the Chinese military over the last 10 years has no precedent. None. I mean, just what they've done with their Navy alone over the last, they've put billions and billions and billions of dollars in their system. So it's, you look at it, I mean, it's hard to ignore how fast and how big. So I don't think it's just limited to Taiwan. I think they have ambitions to ultimately be able to project power globally the way the U.S. does now. They're still behind us in that regard. But nonetheless, they are investing a lot of money. They are, right now, the world's second most powerful military, without a doubt.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
President Trump is on his way home from Beijing, where he met with Chinese
President.
So I don't think it's just limited to Taiwan. I think they have ambitions to ultimately be able to project power globally the way the U.S. does now. They're not.
I just realized I was muted. Anyway, sorry. It moved on, but I wanted to go back and listen to that last bit that he was talking about. So what I was saying was, China does have the power to project globally, right? But their power to project globally, unlike America's, isn't based on like having military bases throughout the entire world, like hundreds of military bases all across the world in like every country or whatever, or having a navy that's able to go anywhere in the world within like 24 hours. Like that's America's way of projecting force around the world, is military, like through military means. And China is building up their military. However, the main thing that China does that is able to project power across the world is the fact that they are the manufacturing hub of the world, that nothing can be made in the world without going through China. And if China decided to shut that off, I'm telling you, if you think it's bad right now with the Strait of Hormuz, which is 20% of oil being gone, imagine if 100% of everything that is produced is gone, like all of the little parts that go into every single piece of technology we have being gone. Literally, like everything, 90% of the stuff in your house, like not being able to be produced. Like, same with like textiles and fabrics and all of that sort of stuff. Like China just builds and makes so much stuff that if they decided to turn that off for the rest of the world would collapse in like weeks. So they are able to project global force as a global superpower. And in fact, I would say that they actually can project more global force than America can with all of its military bases. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that China is building their military up at, like, as Marco Rubio said in that clip, in a unprecedented way, at a speed that has been unheard of throughout human history. And guess what? They're spending so much less on that than America does. China's military budget is like hundreds of billions, I think, like 200 billion or something. Let's see. China military budget. $277 billion. Okay. China is spending $277 billion a year on building out its military right now, and they're able to build like hundreds of ships per year, or like at least dozens. Like they're able to build crazy amounts of ships per year. They're able to build missiles and drones and everything at a rate that America couldn't even, like, in its wildest dreams, be able to do, with $277 billion, whereas America spends $1.5 trillion, or that's what they're asking for at least this year, and it's unable to produce like 20 missiles per year. So yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of it's already over. Like, China is the global superpower, like, at this point, and America is the lesser superpower. Like, America still has a lot of force projection capabilities, but it's all military, and even its military capabilities are not able to keep up in terms of production with China. So, yeah. Anyway, those were the last couple things I was thinking real hard about while I was dick in hand peeing. So I hope you enjoyed it.